Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
From the VON Newsline, this is the VON Major Newscast.
Good evening, I am Tashon Tyson, in with your VON Major News package for today, Monday, 6 January 2020. In our lead stories, nationally, former Premier and lone member of the opposition here on Nevis retires from active politics, and elderly found dead in home in Cotton Ground here on Nevis. Regionally, 5.8 magnitude earthquake strikes Puerto Rico, damage reported. Internationally, Iran offers $80 million bounty for Donald Trump's head after death of a general. And in sports, West Indies President's 11 defeats Ireland by 3 wickets in a warm-up match. We'll have the details of these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, VON.
Welcome back, and now the national news in detail.
For 32 years, I really enjoy serving the people of St. Thomas's. They embrace me with loyalty and love, and I embrace them back. And I set out to be true to them, never to mislead or to abuse or use them. And I think they respected me for that, and I'm very happy that they allowed me to serve this long.
That's the former Premier of Nevis, Joseph Parry. Mr. Parry was speaking to the VON Newsline about his retirement from active politics. The VON Newsline understands that he retired as of January 1st, 2020. He also served as leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, NRP, but stepped down in 2018. After the last local elections here in Nevis, he became the lone member of the opposition, with the NRP winning 1 out of the 5 seats. The Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, won 4. When asked about the reason for his retirement, he gave this response.
My reasons are personal, but my wife died earlier. She has been ill, and I also have some personal issues which need my attention. Having served for 32 years, I retired as the head of the party over a year ago, and I just feel that this is the appropriate time to step aside and let some young blood take over. I think the country needs young blood to take it in a new direction. Right now, it seems to me that it's all about power rather than the development of the country, and you need some people who can really submit themselves to the country, and I think I should set the example by stepping aside.
Mr. Joseph Parry. In related news, leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, NRP, Mr. Roberto Hector, spoke about the recent development and had this to say.
I wish, as leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, to offer sincerest thanks to Mr. Parry, his family, for his public service, his sacrifice, and the contribution he has made to the development of this federation, most specifically his beloved homeland of Nevis. Many of us will conclude that throughout his active political life, Mr. Parry was a model of what a true politician should exemplify. He took the job of representation seriously, and he placed the advancement of his people and this country above party and politics. Indeed, he fought for his people and his country, giving the highest service with integrity and distinction.
When asked about a candidate for by-election St. Thomas's Parish, Mr. Hector stated that
certainly the Constitution will provide that within 90 days of such a resignation or a seat becomes vacant, an election would have to be held to fill this vacant seat. So indeed, there will be a by-election. In fact, it seemed like there would be 2 elections this year that the party would face. We would be making a statement, a quite shortly, which I would share with Von Radio in terms of the individual that is being considered. At this stage, we are in-house and we are seeking to make sure that all the formalities have been put in place and that the party in itself is in a position to speak first of all to the constituency branch before we make it public per se.
Mr. Roberto Hector. A by-election is an election held in a single political constituency to fill a vacancy. The Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force is currently investigating a mysterious death on Nevis. Reports are that 77-year-old Juanita Gonzalez was found dead in her home over the weekend. She is said to have been found in a cotton ground home, motionless, on Sunday, 5th January at about 6 p.m. Authorities are reporting that there were no signs of trauma to the body. An autopsy is scheduled to be performed on the body on Tuesday, 7th January, to determine the cause of death. The VON Newsline will bring more on this story as it develops. Can St. Kitts and Nevis in particular expect any tremors or aftershocks following recent spate of earthquakes in the region? That's a question the VON Newsline posed to the Nevis Disaster Management Department's NDMD Director, Mr. Brian Dyer. This comes following the recent quake occurrences in the Caribbean. Between Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2019, and Boxing Day, December 26, 2019, 4 earthquakes were recorded, jolting the islands of Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and St. Lucia. In addition, Puerto Rico has recorded a number of quakes since December 28, 2019. Moreover, a 5.8 magnitude quake hit the U.S. territory earlier today, Monday, which caused power outages and severely cracking homes.
The official communications from the University of the West Indies Seismic Research Center is that the region is seismically active and that any point along the island chain can experience a tremor at any time. Indeed, we have seen some heightened activity to the south of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we have been notified through the police department, which is our tsunami warning focal point. At any time there's a magnitude 4 or above, we are being notified with information coming from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. However, we still encourage persons across the Eastern Caribbean and here in St. Kitts and Nevis to be vigilant. Earthquakes could occur at any time.
Earthquakes also have the potential to generate a tsunami. A tsunami is a long, high sea wave caused by disturbance. Mr. Dyer gave this advice to the general public.
If we are impacted by a tsunami, it is important that persons are aware and informed of where to run to in the event of a tsunami occurring. It's important that they listen to the information coming from the disaster management offices. We have published some official safe areas where persons could run to in the event of a tsunami occurring. We have designated the tsunami hazard zones, etc. And that is important that persons are aware of those.
Director of the Nevis Disaster Management Department, Mr. Brian Dyer. The Small Enterprise Development Unit, CEDU, will be accepting applications for the facilitation of loans for small business development or expansion and the requisite training in the coming weeks. That is according to Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Colin Dorr.
We have started the process now of accepting applications, but a part of the requirement for this is that the person must have a viable business proposal. The maximum amount to be lent is 100,000, but of course it doesn't mean that every applicant will qualify for 100,000. To be disbursed immediately, it will all go based on your project proposal and the stage of development of your project. And so we want to make it clear to the public that it's not a case where you walk up today with an application and give a check of 100,000. There's a process that has to go through. In terms of business counseling, we have to look at the proposal, look to see whether it can be implemented in phases, what will be the cost of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Because the whole idea is to get you in the end to go from a small business into a medium, into a much larger business with time.
This comes following a signing ceremony between the Nevis Island Administration and the Republic of China, Taiwan, on December 30th, 2019, for the provision of a loan of $5 million to facilitate small business enterprises here on the island. This relending project through the unit is aimed at men up to age 35 and women seeking to start their own businesses. Mr. Doe noted that persons wishing to embark on this course must not come empty-handed.
Normally with these type of programs, you have to have supporting documents to show the business and the expenses to be incurred. So we're not going to write you a check as an individual. If you are buying supplies, you are buying equipment, we make the payment directly to the supplier of those equipment. Because the whole idea is to ensure that at the end of it all, we have a business entity progressing. We want to encourage persons as well to put some stake in it. At least when you come with your business proposal, you must have some input from your own, where there is some cash of your own, supplies, equipment, at least to get you started, so that at the end of the day, we know that you have a seriousness about it because you have some item that you have put in of your own, as opposed to come straight to Sido empty-handed and basically looking towards 100% financing from Sido.
Mr. Colin Dorr. Hilton Hotels has announced the opening of its latest property in association with Koi Hospitality Group and under its Curio Collection banner, the Koi Resort St. Kitts Curio Collection by Hilton, according to TravelPulse.com. In it, the hotel group's debut in St. Kitts and Nevis, which will also be Koi Hospitality's first entry into the hotel space. The resort will feature a full-service pool, well-equipped gym and spa. The famed Koi restaurant brand brings its signature restaurant to St. Kitts, featuring Asian-influenced design and Japanese-inspired cuisine. Jaya Kitchen and Cocktail, which is the resort's poolside bar and restaurant, and Jaya Ultra Lounge. Hilton Hotels and Resorts is a global brand of full-service hotels and resorts and the flagship brand of American multinational hospitality company Hilton. The original company was founded by Conrad Hilton. And finally, Taiwan's resident ambassador to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, His Excellency Tom Lee, has responded to Prime Minister Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris's phone call of condolence and sent a note of gratitude to the Prime Minister, thanking him for his concern in the wake of Thursday's deadly military helicopter crash in the Republic of China, Taiwan. The note from Ambassador Lee reads, PM, on behalf of the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, I would like to thank you sincerely for expressing your sorrow in the wake of the helicopter accident in which several military officials and personnel lost their lives. Your condolences to the victims' families and showing your concern for Taiwan at this time of national mourning are deeply appreciated by the people and government of Taiwan. Chief of the General Staff, General Shen Yingming, and other officials were en route to a military base when the UH-60M Black Hawk helicopter made a forced landing in New Taipei's mountainous Wulai district. A lieutenant colonel, a captain, 2 senior master sergeants, a major, and 2 major generals are said to be among the dead. 5 people reportedly survived the military helicopter crash. That's the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
We know you have your personal as well as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions to make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Gold Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our Be Online internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis.
Welcome back. Another regional news in detail. Out of Puerto Rico. A 5.8 magnitude quake hit the U.S. territory today, Monday, unleashing small landslides, causing power outages and severely cracking some homes. According to WashingtonPost.com, it was one of the strongest quakes yet to hit the U.S. territory that has been shaken for the past week. The quake struck at 6:32 a.m. just south of the island at a relatively shallow depth of 10 kilometers, according to the U.S. Geological Service. There was no tsunami threat, officials said. Power outages were reported in some parts of Puerto Rico following the quake. Emergency Management Director for the southern coastal city of Ponce, Angel Vasquez, told the Associated Press. The Washington Post quoted Mr. Vasquez as saying, "This is one of the strongest quakes to date since it started shaking on December 28th. The flurry of quakes in Puerto Rico's southern region began the night of December 28, 2019, with quakes ranging in magnitude from 4.7 to 5.1. Previous quakes of lesser magnitudes in recent days have cracked homes and led to goods falling off supermarket shelves." Out of Dominica. The United Workers' Party, UWP, has filed petitions in court challenging the results of the December 6, 2019 general elections in 10 constituencies. According to DominicanNewsOnline.com, the UWP is seeking to have the court overturn the results in St. Joseph, Mahon, Morne John, La Plaine, Casa Bros, Celabia, Roseau Valley, Roseau Central, Roseau South, and Wesley constituencies. The Dominica Labour Party, DLP, led by PM Roosevelt Skerritt, won the elections by a landslide margin of 18 seats to 3. However, the UWP, which was part of the long campaign demanding electoral reform before the December 6th poll, concluded that the elections were not free and fair. The party has accused the DLP of bribing Dominicans who live in the diaspora to return to the country to vote on the expense of the UWP. UWP's party Lennox Linton said that it is the UWP's contention that things went wrong, and those things have gone wrong must be set right. Election observer teams from the Commonwealth, OAS, and CARICOM, who monitor the elections, stated in their preliminary reports that the polls were free and fair and reflected the will of the Dominican people. Out of Antigua. Motorists who have been observed and caught by police using a cell phone while driving will have to pay a fine of EC $500 immediately, the Ministry of Legal Affairs has said. Based on an article from nationnews.com in a statement, it said that the amendment to the Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Act 2018 has gone into effect. Additionally, the statement reads, "The Vehicle and Road Traffic Enforcement and Administration Amendment Order 2019 makes it an offense for driving and using handheld devices. Contrary to Regulation 4 of Vehicles and Road Traffic Mobile Devices Regulations of 2019, it permits police officers to issue a ticket fixed penalty of $500 if you are observed holding and using mobile devices while driving." It said that the legislation makes it an offense for individuals to view, send, or compose an electronic message, and that police are permitted to issue a ticket with a fixed penalty of EC $500 if you are observed holding and using mobile devices while driving. And out of Jamaica. Jamaica's Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, says the government is committed to bringing crime under control, according to the Jamaica Observer. Mr. Holness made the remarks in his 2020 New Year's address.
It pains my heart that many of our brothers and sisters and our children were deprived of seeing 2020 due to violence. This is a social epidemic and requires national consensus around the use of emergency powers to bring this disease under control. Jamaica's high homicide rate did not happen overnight. In the decade of the 80s, 4,870 murders were committed in Jamaica. By the decade of the 90s, this increased to 7,621 murders. And by the decade of the 2000s, even with the formation of various special squads and units, murders skyrocketed to 13,418.
He said that this decade was different.
This past decade, 2010 to 2019, has seen a reduction in murders to 12,698, still too high. It is only in this last decade that any serious policy and legislative reform have been undertaken, and certainly within this term that serious budgetary, manpower, and technological upgrades have been made. All Jamaicans should take hope that with sound policy, programs, and plans, we can reduce murders.
Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness. And finally, out of the BVI. Following the recent announcement that legislation is being drafted to facilitate the production and sale of medicinal marijuana, the 2020 Standing Finance Committee SFC report have indicated that the government of the Virgin Islands will also be directly involved in the sale of medicinal marijuana products. During the SFC proceedings, acting head of Macro Fiscal Unit in the Ministry of Finance, Michelle Richmond Phillips, listed medicinal marijuana as a revenue-generating measure that could be employed next year. According to the SFC report, the Premier and Minister of Finance, Andrew Foy, stated that the government will be doing a mixture of both, BVInews.com says. And that's it for the regional stories. Stay with us for news from around the world. Welcome back, and all the international news in detail. An $80 million bounty has been placed on Donald Trump's head in Iran in the wake of General Qasem Soleimani's assassination, Mirror.co.uk says. Official state broadcaster said $1 would be tabled for every Iranian in the country, with the cash going to whoever killed the U.S. president. Iran has 80 million inhabitants. Based on the Iranian population, we want to raise $80 million, which is a reward for those who get close to the head of President Trump, it was announced. Tehran vowed revenge at the heart of the U.S. after the Quds Force general was killed by a Reaper drone last Friday at Baghdad airport. Huge crowds packed the streets in the Iranian capital, Tehran, for the funeral of Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was assassinated in a U.S. drone strike in Iraq on Friday, January 3rd, on the orders of U.S. President Donald Trump. Iraq's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, led prayers today and at one point was seen weeping. Here is more in this BBC report.
There's a real chance of a war. There's a foreign force trying to attack the country. Whenever that happens, people, at least some sections of the population, always rally around the leaders to defend the country against the foreign power. But the older generation who've seen a war before, the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s, went on for 8 years, devastating war. Those people have seen a war and they don't want it.
President Donald Trump has threatened severe sanctions against Iraq after its parliament called on U.S. troops to leave the country. We have a very extraordinarily expensive air base that's there. It costs billions of dollars to build. We are not leaving unless they pay us back for it, he told reporters. Tensions are high after U.S. assassinated Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad last week. More in this BBC report.
President Trump told reporters the main U.S. air base in Iraq had cost billions of dollars to build, and that U.S. personnel would not leave unless the authorities in Baghdad paid for it. He said the sanctions he would impose if the U.S. was told to get out would be bigger than those currently in place against Iran. Iraq's Prime Minister, Adel Abdul Mahdi, has suggested that he favours expelling the Americans, but has yet to decide how to respond to the killing of General Soleimani. Just as he has with Iran, Donald Trump has raised the stakes in this crisis for Iraq's leaders with his strident rhetoric.
And finally, the embattled Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has promised US $1.4 billion in aid to help his country recover from the continuing bushfire crisis. He said this would be spent over 2 years. However, according to the BBC, reconstruction can take much longer. The BBC's Phil Mercer gives us more.
Some of these businesses could take years to recover. For example, some famous orchard areas in Australia have been very badly damaged, and government ministers were saying today that it takes about 5 years to plant an orchard, to bring them to maturity, and it's probably the same in terms of vineyards, that sort of agriculture. Do those owners want to go through the hard work of rebuilding a business that probably took years to establish in the first place and was gone in a few minutes because of the ferocity of the fires?
That brings us to the end of our news segments. The latest in sports is next.
TDC Business Center and City Drugstore Nevis, your one-stop shop for all your school supply needs. Get bundle savings on backpack and computer packages, but save 20% off all back-to-school materials and printers. Back-to-school shopping is made easy at TDC Business Center and City Drugstore Nevis. See stores for details.
Welcome back on Another Sports in Detail. In cricket, the touring Ireland team went up against the West Indies President's 11 team at the Cave Hill campus in Barbados in a 50-over warm-up match on Saturday, January 4th. Summarised scores: Ireland 275 for 9, Gareth Delany 60, Kevin O'Brien 43, Andy Balbirnie 40, William Porterfield 36, Lachlan Tucker 35, Yannick Otley 3 for 46, Akeem Jordan 2 for 59, O'Shane Thomas, Rosario Shepherd, Sheena Burridge and Kieran Powell 1 wicket each. Windies President's 11 278 for 7, Darren Bravo 70, Justin Graves 70, Brando King 45, Sunil Ambrose 22, Joshua De Silva 21, Romeo Shepherd 19 not out, Kieran Powell 17, Kevin O'Brien 2 for 23, Mark Adair 2 for 60, Barry McCarthy, Boyd Rankin and Gareth Delany 1 wicket each. West Indies President's 11 won by 3 wickets. In local sports, football action continues on Saturday, January 11th at the E.T. Willett Park, according to Secretary of the Nevis Football Association, Miss Tasha Parry. The local football league was previously suspended because of the Christmas season. One match is scheduled for Saturday night, and it will feature the Oz Ballers team versus the Pioneers team at 7 p.m. Still in football, Zlatan Ibrahimovic says he never lost his passion for AC Milan and did not rejoin the club to be a Rossoneri mascot. The 38-year-old has signed a 6-month deal with the Serie A side with the option for another season. The former Sweden and Manchester United striker scored 42 goals in 61 league games in his previous stint at the club from 2010 to 2012. Ibrahimovic, who was a free agent after leaving Major League Soccer side LA Galaxy in November, said he received more offers at 38 than when he was 20. AC Milan is 11th in Serie A with 21 points from 17 games. The 7-time European champions are without a major trophy since their 18th Italian title in 2011. Ibrahimovic added that a corporate decision led to his departure from the club in 2012. In tennis, Rafael Nadal insists he is not thinking about getting revenge on Novak Djokovic after the duo gets set to renew their rivalry in 2020. 12 months ago, Djokovic produced an outstanding display to beat Nadal 6-3, 6-2, 6-3 and win a record 7th Australian Open title. However, Nadal will arrive in Melbourne later this month as the world #1, winner of the most recent Grand Slam and full of confidence after an excellent year. Nadal and Djokovic, the #1 players on Team Spain and Serbia respectively, are the headline attractions, with Roger Federer skipping the event. The duo cannot meet until the final on January 12th, which would be a fitting end to the tournament. And that's it for sports. The general weather forecast is next. Welcome back. Another local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. There will be fair to partly cloudy skies tonight with a 20% or slight chance of a brief shower. There will be partly cloudy skies tomorrow with a 60% or moderate chance of showers. Winds are east at 22 to 33 kilometers per hour or 12 to 18 knots with lighter spells overnight. Seas are 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:42 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Monday, 6 January 2020. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, former Premier and lone member of the opposition Hero Nevis retires from active politics, and elderly found dead in home in Cotton Ground here on Nevis. Regionally, 5.8 magnitude earthquake strikes Puerto Rico, damage reported. Internationally, Iran offers $80 million bounty for Donald Trump's head after death of general. And in sports, West Indies President's 11 defeats Ireland by 3 wickets in a warm-up match. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tashon Tyson, wishing you a pleasant evening.